maybe even a little dangerous. She doesn't chase, she attracts. She walks into a room and the entire energy shifts, not because she's perfect, but because she doesn't care about being perfect. So why do men, even smart, successful, emotionally aware men, fall so hard for the so-called bad woman? The truth isn't about looks, or drama, or rebellion. It's about power. The kind that comes from certainty, boundaries, and the thrill of the unknown. Most men aren't addicted to toxicity. They're addicted to emotion, to that rush of excitement that says, I don't know what's going to happen next. The bad woman represents that spark, confidence without apology, freedom without fear, and intensity without explanation. And here's the twist. What men are truly drawn to isn't her chaos. It's her control. She owns her choices. She doesn't seek validation. And in a world where everyone's desperate to be liked, that kind of self-possession feels like oxygen. In this video, we're going to peel back every layer of that attraction, the psychology, the chemistry, and the emotional triggers behind why some men can't walk away. By the end, you'll see that what makes a woman bad might actually be what makes her unforgettable. Attraction isn't random, it's not luck, and it's not magic, it's wiring. Every time we feel drawn to someone, our brains are reacting to ancient codes written long before dating apps or modern romance existed. Men aren't necessarily attracted to bad women because they love chaos. They're responding to psychological triggers that signal strength, confidence, and emotional intensity. When a woman shows independence and unpredictability, she activates something deep in the male brain, a blend of curiosity, challenge, and reward anticipation. Dopamine, the chemical of desire and motivation, spikes when the outcome is uncertain. That's why a woman who's not easily impressed or emotionally available becomes so captivating. She doesn't give away her attention cheaply, and that scarcity creates value. Meanwhile, the nice or overly available woman may unconsciously remove that sense of mystery. It's not that she's less worthy, it's that the human brain craves novelty and challenge to stay engaged. Think of it like a game. When something feels too easy, it loses its thrill. Men often mistake this excitement for love, but it's actually neurochemical pursuit. There's also a primal layer to it. Throughout evolution, confidence and boldness were signs of survival. A woman who moves through life with certainty, who sets boundaries and speaks her truth, signals that she can navigate the world on her terms. To the subconscious male mind, that translates into power, and power, whether emotional or physical, is magnetizing. But here's the paradox. The same traits that make a bad woman irresistible at first can also make relationships unstable if either person lacks emotional maturity. What starts as fascination can quickly turn into frustration. The real key isn't in pretending to be bad, but in understanding why that energy captivates, and learning how to embody confidence and autonomy without crossing into manipulation or defensiveness. Attraction at its core is communication without words. It's chemistry built from signals, posture, tone, attitude, self-respect. When a woman radiates certainty, she's telling the world, I don't need your approval. And ironically, that's exactly what makes people want to earn it. Confidence isn't about loudness or rebellion. It's an energy, a frequency that people feel before you ever speak. When men say they're drawn to bad women, what they're often describing is a woman who radiates certainty. She's bold enough to be fully herself, without apology, without hesitation, without waiting for permission. That kind of energy doesn't just attract, it pulls. A confident woman doesn't play the role of the pleaser. She doesn't twist herself into shapes to be liked. Instead, she moves like she already knows she's enough. And that quiet assurance shifts the dynamic instantly. Men sense it. They feel the difference between someone trying to impress them and someone simply being herself. That authenticity is electric because it's so rare. Here's what most people miss. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It means emotional independence. It's the inner voice that says, I am my own validation. The bad woman isn't powerful because she's careless. She's powerful because she knows her worth and refuses to settle for less. Every boundary she sets, every standard she enforces, silently communicates that she values herself. That's the kind of message that doesn't need volume, it needs presence. When a man meets that presence, it triggers something deep. not fear but fascination. Because confidence flips the usual script. Instead of chasing approval, she becomes the standard. She's not waiting to be chosen. She's deciding who's worthy of her time. That role reversal challenges the traditional dynamic, and for many men, that's both thrilling and intimidating. What truly makes bad equal bold is that these women aren't afraid of loss. They understand that walking away isn't weakness, it's power. They don't cling to attention. They command it through composure. And when someone can stay centered in who they are, even when the world pushes back, that's when they become unforgettable. Real confidence doesn't shout. It whispers, "I know who I am." And that whisper echoes longer than any scream for approval ever could. Every relationship dances on a fine line between emotional thrill and emotional stability. One feels like fire, unpredictable, intoxicating, and full of adrenaline. The other feels like home, safe, consistent, and grounding. The challenge is that our hearts crave both, yet our brains often confuse excitement for connection. When men talk about being drawn to bad women, what they're often chasing isn't the person herself, but the emotional rush she creates. The thrill feels alive. It's the text that takes too long to come, the mixed signals that keep the mind spinning, the push and pull that triggers uncertainty, and with uncertainty comes dopamine. It's that chemical surge that makes the highs feel euphoric and the lows devastating. For many men, that roller coaster becomes addictive. They mistake anxiety for passion and chaos for chemistry. It's not that they want instability, it's that they've been conditioned to associate emotional intensity with love. Emotional stability, on the other hand, doesn't spark that same chemical storm, at least not at first. It's quieter, predictable. It doesn't flood your body with the same adrenaline, so it can seem boring to someone who's grown accustomed to emotional drama. But here's the paradox. What feels stable is actually where love has the best chance to grow. The thrill grabs your attention, but stability keeps your heart safe. One burns hot and fast, the other burns steady and long. A bad woman, or rather a confident, self-contained woman, often embodies both energies. She offers the thrill of independence. She's her own person, she's unpredictable, yet her self-assurance can create emotional security if she's emotionally grounded. The problem arises when the thrill overshadows the balance. When excitement turns into emotional volatility, the relationship becomes less about connection and more about survival. That's when both people start mistaking chaos for passion. True attraction matures when thrill and stability coexist, when the spark of excitement is matched by the trust that you won't get burned. It's the difference between wanting someone because they make you feel alive and choosing someone because they make you feel safe while staying alive in yourself. That's the sweet spot, when chemistry doesn't come from uncertainty, but from mutual growth and emotional depth. The real reason men chase the bad woman isn't because they want pain, it's because she awakens the part of them that feels. She reminds them of the edge between risk and reward. But the greatest evolution comes when a man realizes he can have both, the thrill of passion and the peace of consistency, without losing himself to emotional chaos. Stability doesn't kill excitement, it refines it. The mature version of attraction isn't about constant highs, it's about consistent connection that still makes your heart race, not from fear of losing them, but from the joy of being seen fully and fearlessly. One of the most misunderstood qualities of so-called bad women is their boundaries. People often label them as cold, distant, or even selfish. But what they're actually witnessing is a woman who knows where she ends and where someone else begins. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors that open to respect. And bad women, in their unapologetic authenticity, are masters of this art. When she says no, she means it. When she needs space, she takes it. She doesn't wait for permission to protect her energy. And that self-respect sets the tone for how others treat her. A bad woman doesn't fear being misunderstood because she's not seeking universal approval. She's seeking alignment. And that's something a lot of people, men especially, aren't used to. Many men find boundaries intimidating because they challenge the comfort of control. They're not used to a woman who won't bend at every emotional request, or who can walk away without creating a scene. But what makes her magnetic isn't her resistance, it's her clarity. She knows her limits and enforces them with calm certainty, not chaos. That kind of composure demands respect because it shows she values herself enough to protect her peace. Boundaries also create attraction through contrast. When a woman doesn't give unlimited access, her presence becomes something that must be earned. It introduces balance into the dynamic. Effort must match interest. That's what keeps desire alive. Men often mistake boundaries for rejection, but in truth, they are invitations to rise to a higher standard of connection. The bad woman is saying, without words, if you want to be close to me, meet me where I am, not where it's convenient. The beauty of strong boundaries is that they make love sustainable. They prevent emotional burnout, resentment, and dependency. They allow both people to show up as individuals rather than halves trying to complete each other. In that sense, the bad woman isn't just protecting herself, she's teaching everyone around her how to love more consciously. What most people can learn from her is that boundaries are not about keeping love out, they're about keeping self-respect in. A woman who honors her limits radiates something rare, emotional safety. Paradoxically, that safety makes her even more alluring, because people are drawn to those who know who they are and what they stand for. So when we talk about why men like bad women, it's often not about rebellion at all. It's about the quiet power of self-trust. She doesn't chase, she chooses. She doesn't demand respect, she commands it through consistency. And that lesson, to value yourself enough to say no, is one of the most powerful truths any of us can learn about love. There's something undeniably magnetic about mystery. That quiet confidence that says, you don't get to know everything about me. Not yet. The so-called bad woman embodies this effortlessly. She doesn't overshare, she doesn't lay out her emotions like a roadmap. Instead, she reveals herself in layers, letting curiosity build naturally. That element of challenge, the sense that she's a puzzle worth understanding, awakens a man's instinct to pursue. The human brain is wired to seek completion. When something feels unfinished or unknown, we fixate on it. That's why mystery is so powerful in attraction. It keeps the mind engaged. The bad woman, consciously or not, uses this psychological truth to her advantage. She knows that silence can say more than 1,000 words, and that leaving space creates intrigue. Men aren't drawn to her because she's distant. They're drawn to her because she's selective. Her attention feels earned, not given. Challenge and mystery also create emotional depth. A man doesn't just want to be desired. He wants to feel like he won something meaningful. When a woman makes him work for understanding, not through manipulation, but through self-respect, it amplifies his sense of value in the connection. The chase isn't about games, it's about growth. It's the process of learning, discovering, and earning access to something rare. But here's the difference between healthy challenge and toxic detachment. The healthy kind inspires curiosity, without creating confusion. The bad woman who knows her worth doesn't play with people's emotions. She simply doesn't rush intimacy. She lets things unfold organically. That space allows both people to reveal their truest selves, not their projections. Mystery also requires self-control. It's easy to overshare, to fill silence with words, to try to prove worth through transparency. But mystery thrives on confidence, the kind that comes from being comfortable in not being fully understood. A woman who carries mystery well doesn't hide. She holds back just enough to remain interesting. That's the art. She gives glimpses, not full disclosure, and in doing so she commands presence. The truth is, mystery keeps relationships alive long after the first spark. It gives people something to continually explore. The most captivating women are those who never stop evolving, who always have new depths to uncover. They understand that desire isn't sustained by availability, it's sustained by discovery. The power of challenge and mystery lies in knowing you are not an open book to be read in one sitting. You are a story meant to be experienced over time, with patience, curiosity, and respect. And when someone earns the right to turn your pages, it's not because they solved you, it's because they stayed long enough to understand you. Let's bring this idea down to reality for a moment. Because theory is powerful, but nothing hits harder than seeing these dynamics play out in real life. You've probably seen it, the confident, self-possessed woman who doesn't chase anyone, and yet somehow everyone wants her attention. She's not cruel or manipulative. She's just centered. She knows her worth, and that energy naturally creates gravity around her. Take, for instance, the way celebrities like Rihanna, Zendaya, or Margot Robbie carry themselves. They're admired not just for their beauty, but for their composure. That untouchable aura that says, "You can look, but you can't control me." When they walk into a room, they don't need to demand attention. Attention flows toward them. Why? Because they embody a balance of confidence, independence, and mystery. The same combination that draws men towards so-called bad women. It's the energy of choice, not chase. But this dynamic isn't limited to fame. In everyday relationships, you can spot it too. Think of the woman who knows her boundaries. She doesn't text first every time. She doesn't say yes when she wants to say no. And she doesn't justify her standards. She's not playing games. She's simply being consistent with herself. Over time, people start treating her differently. They show up more intentionally. They respect her time, her energy, her value. That's the real-world effect of boundaries and confidence. They change how others behave. Now let's look at the other side. Consider a man who's been with both types of partners, one who constantly seeks reassurance and one who doesn't. He'll often describe the bad woman as exciting, unpredictable, maybe even a little intimidating. What he's really describing is the emotional intensity she evokes. She challenges him to grow, to stay alert, to step into his best self. The attraction is rooted in evolution. He feels more alive around her because she doesn't let him stay comfortable. There's a fascinating psychological study that supports this. Researchers found that people tend to value what they must invest effort to obtain. When connection requires presence, respect, and patience, it becomes more meaningful. The bad woman unconsciously creates this structure. Her standards create effort, and that effort deepens attachment. So whether it's on a red carpet, in a corporate office, or on a dating app, the same truth holds. People are drawn to those who don't need to be chosen to feel complete. Real-world bad women aren't villains or heartbreakers. They're individuals who remind us that attraction is born not from availability, but from authenticity. The lesson here isn't to imitate them, but to understand them. Because once you learn how to balance confidence with compassion, mystery with openness, and challenge with warmth, you don't just attract people, you inspire them. There's a common misconception that to be magnetic or desirable, a woman has to change who she is, to become edgier, colder, or less caring. But that's not the truth. The real power lies in being authentically kind while refusing to be a pushover. Nice women don't need to become bad. They just need to redefine what nice actually means. Because genuine kindness with strong boundaries is one of the most irresistible combinations in existence. Many women grow up being told that being nice means saying yes, avoiding conflict, and always putting others first. But that version of niceness often leads to burnout and resentment. When a woman constantly gives without receiving, she loses her spark, and people start to take her light for granted. The women labeled as bad simply do something different. They protect that spark. They know that being loving doesn't mean being endlessly available. It means giving with intention, not obligation. A nice woman who channels that same energy authentically learns to say no without guilt. She starts to understand that her time, emotions, and body are valuable currencies. She doesn't stop being compassionate. She just adds discernment to her compassion. She still shows up with warmth, but she stops pouring into people who hand her empty cups. That shift alone transforms how others see her and how she sees herself. Authentic confidence for a nice woman isn't about acting tough. It's about realizing she doesn't need to prove her worth by overextending herself. She can still be soft, but her softness now has strength behind it. She speaks with kindness, but also with clarity. She listens with empathy, but not at the cost of her own peace. That's the balance that creates quiet power. The kind that commands respect without needing to demand it. The moment a nice woman decides to value herself as much as she values others, everything changes. She stops chasing validation and starts attracting reciprocity. Her energy becomes lighter, calmer, more grounded. Because she's no longer performing niceness, she's embodying authenticity. And that authenticity is magnetic because it's rare. The truth is, men and people in general are not drawn to cruelty or chaos. They're drawn to certainty. The woman who knows who she is and what she stands for. The bad woman simply mirrors what's possible when confidence and boundaries meet. The nice woman who learns to integrate those traits doesn't lose her kindness, she refines it into self-respect. The lesson isn't to stop being kind, it's to stop confusing kindness with self-sacrifice. Because when a woman combines warmth with wisdom, she becomes unforgettable, not for the drama she creates, but for the peace she carries within her. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's a mindset you cultivate. The most magnetic women, the ones often labeled as bad, didn't wake up one day and decide to be irresistible. They trained themselves to value their worth, to recognize their energy as precious, and to protect it fiercely. Reframing your mindset is the first step to stepping into that same magnetic energy, without losing your authenticity. It starts with awareness. Many women chase approval without even realizing it. They over-explain, over-compromise, and overextend because they're seeking external validation. The moment you become conscious of these patterns, you gain the power to break them. Confidence grows when you stop asking, "Will they like me?" and start asking, "Do I respect myself?" That subtle shift flips the entire dynamic of attraction. Another key aspect is embracing your worth. A woman who radiates magnetic confidence doesn't wait for someone to affirm her value. She already knows it. She doesn't need constant reassurance, because her self-image is rooted in understanding her strengths, accepting her flaws, and honoring her boundaries. When you internalize this truth, your presence alone becomes captivating. People feel it before you even speak. Mindset also means reframing fear, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. These are all natural, but they become limiting only when you let them dictate your choices. The most confident women view fear as a compass rather than a barrier. They ask, "What would I do if I wasn't afraid?" and then take aligned action. That courage creates the subtle tension and allure that draws people in naturally. Finally, confidence grows through consistency. Magnetic energy isn't a performance, it's a habit. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you protect your energy daily. Every time you choose self-respect over people-pleasing, curiosity over judgment, and presence over distraction, you strengthen the foundation of your magnetic mindset. Reframing your mindset isn't about pretending to be bad or distant. It's about understanding your value, honoring your boundaries, and showing up fully as yourself. When you embody that, confidence becomes effortless, attraction becomes natural, and your relationships transform, not because you manipulate others, but because you've aligned with your truest self. We've covered a lot in this journey, from understanding the psychology of attraction to decoding why men are drawn to the so-called bad woman, exploring confidence, boundaries, mystery, and emotional thrill. The key takeaway is simple but profound. It's never about being bad in the negative sense. It's about being fully yourself, unapologetically, while valuing your worth and protecting your energy. That combination is magnetic, irresistible, and sustainable. Confidence is the foundation. A woman who knows herself, her value, and her boundaries radiates a presence that naturally draws others in. It's not arrogance or manipulation, it's self-respect in motion. Men and people in general respond to that energy because it signals emotional independence and authenticity. When you're not chasing validation, your life becomes magnetic. Boundaries are the second critical piece. Setting clear limits teaches others how to treat you. It's not about keeping people out. It's about defining who is allowed in and on what terms. Strong boundaries amplify attraction because they create respect, intentionality, and a sense of challenge. A healthy dynamic that deepens connection instead of causing chaos. Mystery and challenge also play a huge role. The allure of the unknown, the excitement of discovery, and the subtle power of not revealing everything at once keeps people invested and engaged. True magnetism comes from balance, being approachable and open while maintaining your depth and intrigue. It's the art of giving just enough to create curiosity and desire. Emotional thrill versus stability is another lesson. The most captivating women inspire excitement without creating destructive chaos. They evoke feeling, spark passion, and keep people engaged while offering a grounded foundation for lasting connection. That's the ultimate combination, someone who excites your heart but also gives your mind peace. Finally, the overarching principle is authenticity. You don't need to be bad to attract or inspire. You need to be you, fully present, fully confident, fully aligned with your values. When you embrace your true self, confidence, mystery, boundaries, and emotional intelligence naturally follow. The men, or anyone you wish to attract, respond not to a persona, but to your energy, your presence, and the way you honor yourself. Remember, magnetism isn't about games or manipulation. It's about self-alignment. The more you nurture your confidence, respect your boundaries, and embrace your authentic power, the more you'll naturally attract the kind of relationships, attention, and respect you deserve. That's the real reason why men, and people in general, are drawn to women who are unapologetically themselves.